Welcome back to Battle City Games, everybody. I'm Teague, and today I'm going to show you a deck that, in my opinion, really rocks. It can put up a lot of boards that are going to be hard for your opponent to break, and you can really get on a roll with this deck. Of course, I'm talking about Adamancipators today. This is a deck that used to be at the very top of the meta, but once Block Dragon got hit, it kind of fell out of favor a little bit. But thanks to some innovation with Prank Kids, has come back into the spotlight a little bit recently, and is a really great rogue contender. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future content. We have new videos every single week for you guys. Alright, let's go ahead and dive on in. Alright, so starting with the main deck, we have triple Adamancipator Researcher. This is of course going to be one of our best openers, as it will allow us to dig into our deck in order to search for more rock monsters, and can be special summoned if we control any rock monster. Moving on from there, we have triple Seeker. Seeker can special summon himself if we control any other Adamancipator monster. And the important thing to note with all of the Adamancipator that excavate is they are all tuners, and they all search for any non-tuner rock monster with their effect. So if we have any other Adamancipator card, we special summon Seeker and continue to extend our plays from there. And then we of course are also on triple Analyzer. Analyzer is probably the weakest of the three Adamancipator Researchers, because of the fact that he can only special summon himself if your opponent controls a monster, which means he's not as good going first to open up with, but he is still an important name as he is one of our extenders we want to hit off of some of our other effects, and shares that exact same effect as our others to keep digging into the deck. And being a level 4 does allow for some key synchro and exceed plays. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we are utilizing some Prank Kids in here. That's going to be triple Prank Kids Roxy's. It's just a non-tuner rock monster, level 4, that works with a lot of our plays, and we can easily get him off the field in order to trigger his ability to banish a card, draw a card, and then add another Prank Kids monster from our deck to our hand. From there, some more openers and extenders. We have triple Doki Doki. The important thing with Adamancipators is you want to make sure you have majority of your deck being rock targets in order to hit off of your Adamancipator effects as often as possible, as well as making sure those are non-tuner monsters, since the main deck Adamancipators have to specifically grab a non-tuner rock monster. Doki Doki is great because if we don't open with our Researcher, we can summon the Doki Doki, pitch any rock monster, and then add what we need. If it was a level 2, we can get the Researcher. A lot of times you'll be pitching a level 4 in order to get something like your Supplier. Speaking of Supplier, we are on triple of Kokimiru's Supplier. Supplier is great because if any face-up rock monster we control is sent to the graveyard for any reason, we can just special summon Supplier from our hand. And then when Supplier is special summoned, we get to add one Iron Core, or one card that specifically lists Iron Core of Kokimiru, from our deck to our hand. And again, Supplier is a level 4, which is going to be important for a lot of our synchro plays. Now the target that we're looking at for Supplier is going to of course be Kokimiru Guardian. Guardian is what prevents this deck from getting blown out of the water by cards such as Nibiru. Since we can special summon Guardian off of any of our Adamancipator effects, and once Guardian is on the board, if our opponent activates a monster effect, we can tribute him to negate the activation and destroy that monster. And that is of course a quick effect. So like I said, if we can get the Guardian on board, then that prevents our opponent from hitting us with something like Nibiru, or if they are trying to hold something else such as an Ash Blossom, not maybe expecting the Guardian to come down, then that will just help solidify our plays for the rest of the turn. Now our last 3 in the deck is actually going to be one of our only non-rock monsters. That is triple Parallel Exceed. We do a lot of link summoning on our first turn with this deck, and if we open up with Exceed, that guarantees some of our strongest boards. And since, again, Exceed turns itself into a level 4 monster when you utilize its ability, that just goes with the theme of the deck in general. Moving to our one-ofs, we have one Adamancipator Crystal Dragite. Dragite is great because it is one of our non-tuner level 4s, and if we special summon it off of the ability of one of our Adamancipator cards, we do get to draw a card to dig a little bit further into our deck. And being a water monster comes up importantly with one of our extra deck monsters. But you really only need one Dragite since the draw effect is once per turn, and it's so easy to get to this card thanks to all the other Adamancipator effects. For an extender, we have one Weeping Idol. This is just a level 2 rock monster, and we can banish one tuner monster from our graveyard to special summon it. Again, since all of our Adamancipator monsters are tuners, once they've been utilized and are in the graveyard, if we have the idol, it just serves as an additional extender for us. We then have the one Print Kids Dropsies. This is going to be our search target off of Roxy's, and just allow us to continue extending our plays. And then we have one Plague Spreader Zombie. This is a tech choice that I like to go with because we can special summon this off of our Needle Fiber in order to extend our plays, and then we can bring it back and potentially stack something like a Dragite to the top of our deck in order to grab it off of an Adamancipator going forward. For our hand traps, we of course have the Rock Hand Trap, Triple Nibiru. If we do find ourselves going second, Nibiru is just a great option to have. And being rock, it fits with the theme of the deck. Again, this deck is very combo heavy, so of course you want to go first, but we want to make sure that we can get to our turn and have a fair chance if our opponent does get to go first, and Nibiru is going to give us that best opportunity. And then for our other hand trap, we are on triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Ash Blossom, again, in my opinion, is just one of the best hand traps you can play in this format. And it's going to give you the best opportunity to disrupt your opponent's plays, like I said with Nibiru, if you do find yourself going second. I do like Ash a little bit better than Nibiru, since even if we go first, Ash is also live going into our opponent's turn to just serve as an additional disruption. That's going to do it for the monsters. Moving into the spells, we have triple Adamancipator Signs. This will just allow us to special summon back one of our Adamancipator monsters. And then we also have the option to stack an Adamancipator from our deck to the top of our deck, or any rock monster to the top of our deck, in order to help set up some of our Adamancipator plays. We play 3 of it because it is a great extender, and if we see one, it really allows us to get our combos going. We're then on one Monster Reborn. This is just an extender for our turn to allow us to continue to go off as we progress. Especially if we happen to miss on one of our Adamancipators, Monster Reborn can kind of serve as a fill-in in that situation. Then for our last spell, we have the one Called by the Grave. Like I mentioned, we are a combo deck, so we definitely want to make sure we have the best opportunity to prevent our opponent from disrupting us. Once we get Crossout Designator, I think that this will definitely become Crossout Designator, and we'll make sure to fit 3 copies in the deck. But for now, we're going with the one Called by the Grave. And then for our last card in the main deck, we have the one Imperial Order. As you might have noticed, we are only on 5 spell cards for the entire deck. So if we're able to set that Imperial Order up on our first turn, it's not really going to affect us, but can definitely disrupt a lot of the decks that are in the current format. That's going to do it for the main deck. We'll get into the extra deck here. Starting with our Synchros, we have one Formula Synchron. We're not going to be synchroing into this. This is one of our cards to bring out off of our Needle Fiber ability. We will get that draw, and it's going to allow us to go into an additional disruption that you'll see in just a moment. We are on one Herald of Arclight. We can make this with our Dropsies plus our Roxy's, and again, it just acts as a disruption for us. And if we don't have the Kokimiru Guardian, if we can get the Herald of Arclight on board, that does also prevent the Nibiru as well. We have the one Raptite. This is just our level 6 extender, since it allows us to excavate the top 5 and special summon any rock monster This does not have the non-tuner restriction like the main deck monsters, so if we do hit one of our Adamancipator tuners, we can go into them to continue our extension plays. We are on the 1 Leonite. This is just one of our utility options. And if we do summon it once we have a Ash Blossom engraved to fulfill the fire monster requirement, then it gains the quick effect to target a rock monster in our graveyard and special summon it. So again, this can act as an extender. This is a utility spot though, so if there's something else you feel like you'd rather play here, definitely feel free to do so. Moving into our level 8s, we have our 3 disruption cards. We have 1 Dragite, 1 Savage Dragon, and the 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Dragite's really great because it not only has a disruption ability, but it also helps us clear our opponent's board if we do find ourselves going second, since we can excavate 5 cards and then get rid of cards up to the number of rock monsters excavated, and that's a non-targeting ability. And then if we have that water monster in the graveyard, which is where the Dragite from earlier comes in, then it does also become a quick effect spell or trap negation. Borreload Savage Dragon's pretty obvious. Once we get a Link monster into graveyard, we can summon the Savage Dragon. And Crystal Wing is what we're going to be looking to go into off of our Raptite once we've used that, because Raptite plus any level 2 tuner such as Researcher or Plague Spreader will turn into Crystal Wing. And then our target for the Formula Synchron that I mentioned is Satellite Warrior. In case you're not familiar with Satellite Warrior, if it's Synchro summoned, we can target cards our opponent controls up to the number of Synchro monsters in our graveyard and destroy them. And then it gains 1,000 attack for each card destroyed. Typically, we will end our turn with anywhere from 3 to 4 Synchro monsters in our graveyard, which means if we go into this on our opponent's turn utilizing Formula Synchron, we can clear up to 4 cards, which is just a massive disruption that a lot of players may not be expecting, since this is a little more of an obscure card. And he is a level 10, so what you'll be looking to do is, once you've utilized the negate from your Crystal Wing or your Borreload or your Dragite, you'll be looking to then go into the Formula Synchron and use Synchron plus any of those level 8s to get into your Satellite Warrior. Moving on into our Link monsters, we have for our only Link 1, the Prank Kids Meow Meow Mew. This is important because it's a Link 1 that allows us to get our Roxy's off board in order to trigger that effect. So depending on what kind of situation we're in, if we need to, we can just go straight into this to trigger Roxy's, to get our Dropsies, and continue to extend from there. As I've already mentioned, we do have the Needle Fiber. This is one of the most important cards in our extra deck. Since we play so many tuners, it's extremely easy to get into Needle Fiber, and it's going to be one of our primary extenders. And then if we keep it on board, will allow us to disrupt during our opponent's turn, as I just mentioned. We are also playing the IP Masquerena. Again, this is just extremely easy to go into the deck, and allows us to set up some disruptions thanks to our Nightmare Unicorn. We can end on the Masquerena and then use her ability on our opponent's turn to link into a Unicorn, discard a card, and spin a card from our opponent's board. For our Link 4s, we are on 2. We have Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, and Access Code Talker. Appaloosa, because of the amount of times we can summon in any given turn, it's extremely easy to get anywhere from a 3 to 4 negate Appaloosa on board. Especially if our opponent does disrupt us, we can still easily get that Appaloosa out to ensure that we have some interaction on our opponent's turn. Access Code Talker, as always, is just a great OTK opportunity, but don't worry if you don't have the Access Code Talker. I do have a fill-in. Of course, you can always go with the Boral Sword Dragon if you want to maintain that ability to OTK. And then for the Exceed monster, the sole one we are playing is the Abyss Dweller. Again, for disruption purposes, we play so many level 4s, it's extremely easy to end on this card and ensure we have an additional disruption during our opponent's turn. And another option, if you don't play the Access Code Talker, you can include the Gallant Granite. This is just a rank 4 that allows us to detach to add any rock monster from our deck to our hand. So if we overlay, we can search something like Researcher, then we're able to special summon Researcher since Gallant Granite is a rock monster, and we can then continue our plays from there. So that's going to do it for the profile, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'd love to know what you think of Adamancipators in the format overall right now. I know they fell by the wayside a little bit, but I think this deck can really put up some amazing boards that a lot of people may not really be expecting to face. So I hope you enjoyed. And like I said, go ahead and like the video if you did, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. Till next time, I'm Teague with Battle City Games.